the BRRRR Cashflow Live, Investors Live, and it is Wednesday, right? 1 day to go, which is tomorrow, and we are jumping into the 3 days. So if you haven't been on yet, you haven't registered yet, make sure that you do. And let's get started. So basically, we do these 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. On Fridays, generally we have a fun story, experience, something from my past, some other people's past, and hopefully it's a learning lesson. It's something that is funny, inspiring, motivational. Today, we're going to do a Q&A. Tomorrow, obviously, we're just packing up everything. Everything is going to get down to the hotel, and we kick off the 3-day on Friday morning. So we have, I know VIP is completely sold out, so that is gone. The only thing is maybe 15, I believe, seats that are left for regular attendees, and already the count was somewhere 630 plus. 630 plus people coming. So this is the largest real estate event that happens. And so this is, guys, now is the time. You want to buy properties in the next 2-3 months, and you want to have a great end of the year, great first of the year. Guess what? Now is the time to jump in. A lot of times people are like, oh my God, Andrew, we see you everywhere, meant to show up at the 3-day. I still haven't. Well, go to andrewholmesevents.com. Register, sign up, bring a friend with you. If you have a friend, you're a family member, you have a spouse that you would like to bring to the 3-day, you're welcome to bring them with you. And that'll be a complimentary ticket. So you don't have to pay for them, but just you do need to register. So again, it's andrewholmesevents.com. Register, and we will see you there. And if you do watch these, come up during the 3-day. Obviously, there's a lot of people. Say hello during the breaks, and at least say, hey, Andrew, I watched the live streams. Okay, so the questions today. First question we're going to start with is, I have a roof that is curling. Curling means basically it's at the end of the life of the roof, and I want to get a roof replacement. How much should I be expecting? Because the quotes that I've gotten, this person got a quote for $12,000 and got a quote for $11,000. And the house that they have is about 1,000 square foot house, barely 1,000 square foot house. So here's the way you calculate that. So think about this, right? This is basically a ranch, so it's going to be a rectangle. And fortunately, this person sent me a picture of the property, so I know the garage is within the roof. If the garage was separate from the house, then you would have to account for the room, for the size of the roof on the garage also. Generally, a 2-car garage is 20 by 20, right? That's a general rule of thumb. If it's obviously 2.5 car, there's extra room, then it's going to be bigger. But generally, standard is 20 by 20. So the way a roof is calculated. So number one, what would I be looking at paying? Today, a fair price for a roof per square. So generally, whenever you lay down carpet or you lay down, say, anything else, you measure it in per square foot, per square yard when it's a carpet, but when it's a roof, it's measured in squares. What does a square mean? A square means 10 foot by 10 foot section. So 100 square foot. So think about this, 1,000 square foot house, right? If you look at the square footage on that, it's going to be 1,000 square feet. So how much in squares? That would be a 10 square house, right? It's 10 squares. But a roof is not flat, a roof is pitched, and you're going to have a little bit of material wastage. So what you do is you take that number, the square footage of the house. If you have a separate garage, then you add for that the square footage of the house, and you only take the outside square footage of the house. You don't take, if it's a 2-story house, you don't have 2 roofs, right? You only have a 2-story house. You only have 1 roof over it. So let's say each story is 1,000 square foot. So it's a 2,000 square foot house, but because it's only 1 box, the roof is going to be basically 1,000 plus accounting for the pitch on it. So the way we do that, so in this house, you're going to be 10 squares because it's 1,000 square foot. So you take the 1,000, you divide it by 100, it gives you 10. Then you multiply that by 1.3. Why are we multiplying? Because there's a pitch on the roof, so that's going to be 1.3, so that's 13. And then you add about 10%. So basically about 14, 15 square roof. So if you generally, I would be looking at paying somewhere around 310 to 325 per square. So if you take, so let's just say the guy quotes you 320. If it's like 380, 390, 400, right? So this quote for 12,000, 9, whatever, 11,000 is ridiculous. It is ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous. Do not go for it. The way she found these is there was a couple roofs being changed in the neighborhood, and they were doing some storm damage work, insurance work, and those guys are going to basically take you to town, right? This is, you're an investor, so you can't be paying those kind of rates. So how much would I pay for that property? So assuming there's no plywood damage, if there's a little bit of plywood damage, it's basically 2 or 3 sheets are generally included, the plywood which is under the roof. So basically for a complete tear off and for a new roof on there, I would look at somewhere around, so basically it's, if it was 10 times say 315 or 320, that would be 3,200. Plus you have another 4, so you're going to have another $1,200. So about 4,200 to 5,000, right? I would not pay any more than that. If you don't have a roofer, let us know. We'll send you somebody who is really good, and they'll be able to do it for a fair price. But it needs to be somewhere around 315 a square, not square foot, a square, which is 10 by 10. Is what you should be paying in today's market. So I hope that helps. Second question is a septic well versus city water, right? What is preferred? So basically, this person found a property. The property happens to be an off-market deal. It is in West Chicago. And they're looking at, so West Chicago is basically, if you go to 59, go north of 88, you'll run right into West Chicago. And great area. And would you buy the property? So this person found this property for $162,000, right? Septic and well, this property I would be buying. Do not at all, right? Do not pass up this property. Now, mind you, if you don't want to buy this property, please, right, come to the 3-day or reach out to us. I will be happy to take this property off your hands in 1 second, right? I'm happy to pay you a wholesale fee, and I will buy the property, no questions asked. Even if it needs a new septic, I will still buy the property. So what I'm trying to tell you here is it's a really, really good property. Do not pass this property. This is a $350,000 house any given day, right? Any given day. You're going to do about, on this particular property, maybe, I'm thinking, I don't know about the septic in this particular property because obviously I haven't seen the septic, but I know which house this is. We own a bunch of properties in the area. And let's just say 45,000, 50,000 in work. Let's just put aside another $15,000 per septic if it just has to be, right? But for the price you're buying it, it's a really good deal that you're getting. So don't get rid of the property. If you have the ability to keep it, I would keep it. If I had this particular property, I would not be selling the property at all whatsoever, period. You need to do a flip. I think you can do a superb flip. You'll make a ton of money. If you need funding, by the way, National RE funding, Jesse will be more than happy to give you funding on this property. So I would not sell it. I would not worry about city water, city sewer at all, because this is in an area where it's perfectly acceptable to have well water, well water and sewer, septic, in the area. So it's perfectly fine. I would not be scared of it. But if you are, please let us know. I'll buy it. Anybody from Mastery will buy this property from you in 10 seconds. So just, there we go. The next question was, should I be investing out of state for turnkey properties? So the question for you now, so this person already has 2 properties in Chicago, Chicago suburbs. And so you should not be, right? Unless there's a specific reason why you're buying turnkey. Right now, if you're buying turnkey, in 99.9% of cases, you're buying properties that are overpriced. You're buying properties because somebody is talking you into it, and this person put who it is, that is what company it is that is selling them the property. Absolutely, absolutely do not buy that particular property in that state, because what they're selling you the property for is they're selling it to you at full market value. It is in a very bad part of town where you're looking to buy. This is in, well, I'm not going to name the company, but this is in Kansas. And this is not a good part of town. Here's the reason generally why it doesn't make sense. But you're going to say, well, Andrew, you guys are investing in Florida. Yes, we're investing because we're building brand new properties to keep, or some people are flipping those, right? But we have a team over there. That's why we're doing that. I did not go out of state. Guys, here's the reason. Why are you going out of state? You have to think about it, right? A lot of times what people think is, oh my God, I can't make money where I am. Right now, think about this. If you're in California, let's say, and you're in a LA area, whatever, and you may have some money, but the market is so expensive, the properties are so expensive relative to the rents that the numbers don't make any sense. Now, from there, you go out a little bit, you buy somewhere else, maybe it'll make sense. But generally, that is not the case. 99% of the country, you find property, especially around Chicagoland area. Yes, is the market hot? It is extremely hot. Are you going to have issues in terms of on every property you put offers on? I have issues, right? Yesterday, I was laughing at something. I put an offer on a property this weekend. It was listed for 160 something, right? And I put an offer on the property for full. Actually, I was 5,000 short of full price. I put 20,000. No inspections, nothing. I buy the property. And somebody came in and is offering 215,000. So the agent came back to me. She's like, well, we have an offer for 215. And if you want to waive any inspections, buy it for 215. I'm like, I'm not going to buy it. Whoever's buying is a goddamn idiot. Right. And the reason I said that is because they're overpaying for the property. The property on the back end is worth 320. And if you do the numbers, I'm not going to buy a property if I'm going to make $30,000. It's not worth it to me, right? It's just not worth it to me to make $30,000, $40,000. I mean, I'm just not interested, right? To me, if I'm not going to make $45,000, $50,000 minimum on a property, on a $200,000-$300,000 property, I am not interested. Maybe somebody maybe, but I'm just not. Anyways, so the out-of-state property, there's 2 or 3 reasons. Number one, you have no control. Number two, the company that bought the property, particularly this property, bought this particular property for $30,000. They're selling it to you for $160,000, right? The property is extremely, extremely, extremely shabbily done. So you're buying at the top end of the market, and your property is not going to cash flow, right? The way they're showing you the numbers, the property will not cash flow. And you can get much better returns, right? Much, much, much better returns. In fact, if you look at your numbers, you're going to take a hit every single month of $125 a month, right? So they're saying, oh, you're going to have tax benefits. What tax benefits, right? You're going to invest in something we're going to lose money? That's silly, right? And they want you to put down, I think, $60,000 or $70,000 to buy a property for $150,000, $160,000. The reason they're doing that is the property is not going to appraise out. Right? If you get an appraisal, the property will not appraise out for what you're paying. So the general thing is, generally you should buy in state, especially if you're in the Midwestern states. There's absolutely no reason to go anywhere, right? You're in Tennessee, you're in North Carolina, you're in any of this part of the country, there's plenty of properties. Now, are there sections, are there areas that are going to be astronomically hot? 100%, right? There are parts of Florida that are going to be astronomically hot, but guess what? Not all of Florida, right? Today, Florida's cooled down because anywhere, especially where you have a lot of new inventory coming on. So even Charlotte County, where we're buying, right? If you bought a resale property, you can get resale properties at actually really good deals still. Now, you're going to have a hard time finding labor because labor is in short supply in Florida. But guys, do not blindly buy properties out of state. You can do much better research here. And if you're in the Chicago market, it's the number one market for getting returns on your money. It's a tough market if you don't understand it. That's why you go to the 3-day. Next thing, should I be doing a house hack with a multifamily, or should I be buying a single family home? We are 22 and 26 years old. So I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming 22, 26. These guys are young. So it looks like it's a couple, and they're buying a property. Guys, listen, if you're 22 and 26, yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no reason why you should not be doing a house hack, right? You absolutely 100% should be doing a house hack, especially if you can do that with multifamily. Seems like their budget for a 26-year-old, their budget is $600,000, right? I mean, so clearly, if one of them has a great job, or maybe both of them have pretty decent jobs, so seems like that they have some money. 100%, you should be doing a house hack. Actually, this 3-day, we're going to go through step by step on how do you house hack, and we're going to go through purchase price, rehab price, how much money you have to come to the table with, how much credit do you get from the seller. Exactly, we're going to calculate the numbers, and what you'll see is house hacks done correctly, right? It's the ultimate way to get into real estate. So if you can do that, I would sacrifice now. Once you guys are a little bit older, you have kids, all those kind of things, then you may not want to live in a multifamily. You may want to go buy a single family house. But literally in the next 2 years or so, you can have 4 or 5 nice little house hacks, 2-unit, 3-unit properties. You can build a bloody fortune even before you're 30. Literally. And it's not something that I'm giving you pie in the sky. This is something that is 100% doable. So just something to think about. That 100%. If you don't know how to do it this time, we're giving you the exact numbers and with exact properties during the 3 days. So make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, next question is, how much should I be making on a flip in today's market? So this is actually another thing we're going to talk about, and we'll talk about on a property that we're closing tomorrow. And we're going to take that example because I had run through the numbers on this property last 3 day, and it's closing now. So we're going to go through the numbers and we'll do an analysis. So the rule of thumb that I use, now guys, understand that if I'm saying something, right, if my numbers are not better than yours, shame on me. Meaning that I have no right to stand in front of you and be trying to say to you, hey, this is how you do things, if I'm a mess up myself. So my numbers are going to be a little bit higher, meaning I expect, right? So I'll give you guys an example. There's a property earlier in the year that I closed, and I made $60,000, I think it was, like 58 or 60, something like that on the property, right? And believe me, I was not happy. I was not happy at all. I was pissed, to tell you the truth. Now, at one time, oh my God, I mean, $60,000, I'd be jumping up and down, right? I'd be like, oh my God, am I a hot shot? The reason behind that was this, that I was supposed to make about $110,000 on that particular property, and there were some issues, foundation issues I knew about. It. It's not like I didn't know about it. But I went to pull the permits correctly from the village. I could have done it kind of sneaky behind their back. I didn't. I went to pull the permits, and they made me dig 20 foot around the house and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so the job that was supposed to be a $20,000 foundation job from 22 went to 65. And that's where I missed my mark, right? And now for somebody else to look at it, they're like, Andrew, you should be happy. You made $60,000, right? I was not happy because that was not the plan. I would have been happy if that was my plan. If I was not happy, I bought the property for 90,000, 60,000 on the foundation thing, and about 100,000 in other work. So 160, that's 160 plus 90, right? So that would be, so you do the math. So I'm in that deal somewhere around, what is that, about 250, right? On 250,000 bucks, after a year, I made 60,000, right? I want to spit, right? That sucks. I was not happy with it. Now, if I had made the same 60,000 in 6 months, then I would have said, yes, this is a good deal, right? I am proud of it. But in a year, the amount of time it took, that's why I wasn't happy. So general rule of thumb that I use, I'm going to give you my numbers. I'm going to suggest a number for you. So if you're investing 200,000, now it can be your money, or it can be money that you borrowed. It may be money from Mastery, that's okay. Maybe money from a hard money lender, that's okay. So to me, what is a good profit? And I think what should be a good profit for you. Now, this is based on your experience, meaning you have another job, you do something else for a living, and then you're investing on the side. That's one thing. If you're full-time in real estate, meaning like me, right? We run a real estate office, not selling homes, but we are an investment firm. if I'm investing, shouldn't my returns be much better than yours? Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm not worth anything if I do this full time and your numbers are the same as mine, right? I should get out of business. So my number on a 200,000 is in 6 months. If I make a minimum of about $50,000, I consider that a win, right? That is good in 6 months, not a year. If it's a year, then I need to make closer to 70 to 80,000 bucks. Why? There's time value of money, right? Because the money is sitting. So this is after expenses, after everything, right? That's what we're talking about. After expenses, I want to make 50,000 bucks on a 200,000 property. What should you be thinking about? You should be thinking about somewhere around 38,000 net after expenses. Net meaning you paid everything, then you make about 38. Well, what about, Andrew, if I make 33? It's not bad, right? I'm just giving you a ballpark. So 35, 38, anything more than 40 is a home run deal. That's really good on a $200,000 property because the property prices have gone up. What about if we raise the number? Now we go to a $300,000 property. If it's 300,000 to me, I want to make a minimum $60,000 in 6 months, right? Not in 12 months. In 12 months, if I made 60,000 bucks on a 300,000 deal, I do not consider that a good deal, right? I'll take it. It's better than losing money. But what I'm saying is, if you ask me, hey, Andrew, are you proud of this property? I'll say, not really, right? Because that I expect, because what if I had just done 2 small properties and made 35, 40 each? Wouldn't that be better? So that's what you have to always think about is, what is the time value of your money? How difficult was the rehab? And the way I look at it is, how many trips did I make from my office to the property? How many phone calls did I make, right? How long was my money stuck? And was my own money stuck in the property? So those are the ways I look at it. What do I mean by how many trips I made? Think about this, right? If I have this particular property, so the property I was earlier talking about, the foundation, this is in Barrington. Right? And because it was a big project, because it was other stuff, I had to make 2 or 3 trips. Now you're like, Andrew, you're just being a prude, man. You're like a prima donna. You're saying, hey, you made 60,000 bucks and you're saying you're complaining. I'm not complaining, guys. What I'm saying is, we are pro investors. Our time has value. So if someone from the office, like say Matthew or Harry, goes to the property and takes care of it, I don't have to worry about it. The property is worth more to me. But if I have to show up, take my time, I should never have to go to a property ever, except once, when initially I'm making a decision, or if I haven't seen it, somebody from the office has seen it. I bought a property, Miss Rose had seen it. That's fine. As long as I don't go, my time is not involved. But if my time is involved, guess what I'm doing? I'm running on the treadmill. So for 200,000, my number was somewhere around 45 to 50. Your number should be somewhere around 35 to 38 in 6 months. For 300,000, my number was somewhere around 60 plus to be considered a great deal in 6 months. On a $400,000 property, minimum, I want to make about 70 to 75 minimum, right? If I'm not making that, then why am I doing a flip for 400,000 bucks? Does it really make sense? Right? As the price amount goes up, price of the property goes up, I want to make more money, because otherwise I am just missing the boat. So that's just kind of how I look at it. Now, some people, the other day I had somebody that came up. They're like, well, I just did a deal and I made $50,000. What do you think about it? I'm like, I have no idea, man. It's like you saying, well, I bought a pant, it's a size 42. What do I think about it? If your waist is 42 and you bought a pant 42 and it fits you, good for you. For me, it's going to fall off. So it's not good for me. What I mean by that is this, that it depends on what your expectations are. If you're asking my opinion, that you sold the property somewhere around 400,000, so this guy owned the property for 14 months, right? And he's like, man, we transformed the property. We did so much work. I'm like, great, right? Are you a designer? He's like, no, what do you mean? We just like to do beautiful properties. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, right? He's like, well, I know, Andrew, you don't do that much work. I'm like, listen, man, I'm not a contractor. I'm an investor. There are 2 different things. You are a contractor, or that's what you're trying to be, right? A contractor thinks about rehabbing properties. An investor thinks about return on money, right? That is the biggest difference. I am looking at return on money. My job is to think with my head. Your job is to work with your hands. I'm not saying either is right or wrong. Just the difference is that if you think with your head, your returns are going to be always better because you can think at a higher speed than you can do the work. He's like, oh, I didn't look at it that way. I'm like, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm like, if you are okay with a $50,000 profit, good for you. I would not be okay with it. I would be pretty pissed about it, right? And the reason I would be pissed about it is because think about this. If I'm going to keep a property, if I'm going to do a flip, and this is my full-time job, and it takes me 14 months to sell a property, where am I going to eat? Where am I going to feed myself? How am I going to put food on my table, right? At 50,000 and you divide it by 14 months, you realize how, McDonald's will pay you more. Portillo's, if you go down there and work, they will pay you more per hour than you just made. He's like, well, yeah, I didn't look at it, but generally that's what we shoot for. I'm like, man, you're shooting too low because you could do a retail job for somebody and make much more money. This is not the right way of going about it. And I think he got the point. He's coming to a 3-day, but hopefully you guys get that, right? That it's always going to be based on that, how long does it take, how difficult is the rehab, and then based on that, how much return do I want? So the next thing, do you purchase notes or simply single family and multifamily properties? How can I find deals before they hit the MLS leads? Okay, so this is a two-part question. Number one, do we purchase notes? No, we don't. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to. Given the right set of circumstances, I would be willing to buy a note, right? The reason I don't do it is because I don't get a deep enough discount, right? So what I mean by that is this. Let's just say you have a performing or non-performing note. Let's just say it's a non-performing note, right? And I can get a huge discount on it, huge discount. Sure, I'll buy it, right? I have no problem with it. I'll buy it all day long. But just to buy a note and then have to put up that kind of money, why would I do that? Because a note, I can't refinance the note. My money is stuck in that particular note. But they're like, but Andrew, let's just say it's a note, $150,000. You can buy it at a discount of $120. But that's not worth it to me, right? Unless the property is worth $300,000, then it's okay. Because now once I buy a note, which is a non-performing note, now I got to foreclose on that sucker, right? So why would I buy it? Or if I'm going to buy a discounted note just to get a return on my money, it's never going to be the kind of return I can create with a rental or with the Airbnb or with a midterm rental or even on a flip. My cash on cash return is just not going to come in. So then that's the reason I don't buy a note. But if the note is discounted enough, even if I have to foreclose on the property, I am more than happy to buy the note. But it's got to be at a deep discount. Right? Not the way a lot of note buyers do those deals. I don't do those because to me, those margins are just not big enough to justify what I do. So that's the reason. Now, secondly, we're open to single families, condos, townhouses, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, any of that, as long as it's the right price. The next question this person has, and this is a question every single person is asking today, how do I find the pre-foreclosures in the MLS? So if you look at how many pre-foreclosures there are in the MLS today, properties that are actives today and the properties that are under contract that are labeled correctly in the MLS. Labeled correctly meaning that the agent has actually put it in as a short sale, as a court approval, as a pre-foreclosure. Because if they don't check that in the MLS, guess what? You're going to run a search for those, but you're not going to find them. A lot of agents don't check those boxes when they input the listings. So if you go in the MLS and just do a search for short sales, foreclosure, pre-foreclosures, we're not talking about foreclosures, we're talking about pre-foreclosures right now, court-approved sales, right? There's 3 different categories in there that you'll find. You're going to find very few houses, relatively. But having said that, there's 27,000 houses right now as we speak, right, that are pre-foreclosure properties in and around the Chicagoland area. So the best way, the best way, go directly to the pre-foreclosure list. If you don't know how to find that list, we'll show you how to find that list at the 3-day. Like Chicago, like Cook County alone has over 11,000 properties that are in pre-foreclosure right now, right this second. Pre-foreclosure, over 11,000 properties. So just something to think about, right? So it's something that you need to go after. I'll tell you how we do it is we do a small batch mailing to the areas that I'm interested in. So in the areas that I'm interested in buying midterm rentals and short-term rentals today and good quality rentals, I'm doing mailings to them for pre-foreclosures. Now, I don't do a lot of those, but we're doing about 1,000 to 1,500 pieces of mail to those properties, and then we're doing follow-up. The ideal way you should do it is do a mailing, do phone follow-up, do a mailing, do phone follow-up, do a mailing, do phone follow-up, and a minimum of 7 attempts, right? Phone attempts should be 8 to 9 attempts, minimum. Ideally, if you can get to 12 attempts, that would be better, right? Because everybody's busy. A lot of times people don't pick up the numbers. And then by follow-up, I mean that you did the mailing, you did the phone call, and you do text, right? But don't do batch text and just check the rules around it. The FCC rules you want to make sure you meet the compliance requirements. But you can do individual text, just click, and boom, it'll send out to everybody that's associated with the property. So you pull the list, you do a reverse search, right? And you can do that basically automated sort of thing. PropStream does it. There's a bunch of services that are available that will do those. And then you do that, and then you do texts about that property to the owners. You tend to get a better response. Don't do blanket texts because that will backfire on you, and if you're caught, you'll get fined. So hopefully all of that makes sense. The next question is, when we put an offer, we call ourselves cash investors in hopes of a private money lender will partner with us or bring cash to the table. But some sellers want to see actual proof of funds submitted with the offer. I lost a great deal. I lost a great property that I bid on to someone who had actual cash in the bank, right? And I only had proof of funds. That was a pre-approval letter from National RE Funding. Very good question. This is obviously somebody who's from Mastery. And this is common, right? This happens from time to time where you're going to lose properties, right? I mean, when I started, it was 2008, right? The market was terrible, right? So they would take the proof of funds that I had, right? It's not like I had a lot of money. And this is a challenge you're going to have to deal with in today's market. I agree that if somebody has cash in the bank, right, that proof of funds is going to have the most amount of value, right? Today, I can show proof of funds in the bank, right? There was a point, long time, where I couldn't show that. So then I had to use a hard money letter sort of a thing to be able to make an offer. Now, here's another way you can do it, and I've done this a lot. What I used to do was I would partner up with people, and I would show their proof of funds, right? That, hey, I'm going to, let's just say it is Pinnacle Real Estate, and let's just say it's owned by somebody else, or I'll take John Barrett, right? So John Barrett happens to be somebody we actually just closed a deal, a 2-unit that we just sold in Berwyn, right? And this is somebody I partnered on, and I had partnered with John because at the time, right, this is 7-8 years ago, I didn't have the money to buy the property myself. So I showed John's proof of funds because he had the proof of funds. So the property was bought in his name, and we partnered up 50-50, right? He made $80,000-$90,000. I made $80,000-$90,000 when we sold the properties. We had it rented all this time. We just sold the property. And so a lot of times you can do that. But if you're going to do that and you have somebody, especially from Mastery, if you're going to do that, that conversation needs to happen ahead of time with the person that is going to do private money, so they can show their proof of funds, and then both of you guys have the same business plan, and then you have a higher chance of getting the property. Guys, we're in summer months right now, right? In summer months, it is tough, right? It is tough to be able to find properties because guess what? Everybody and their brother is out, weather is good, and everybody wants to be in real estate. Every new investor, oh my God, it's summer, I'm going to start investing, I'm going to change my life, right? Buyers that are buying to basically upgrade or buy their first home, they're out because they want to basically get in on the game. They want to start owning a property. So this is very common. Every summer this happens. This year it's exaggerated because last year the interest rates went up. When the interest rates went up, guess what happened? The market stalled. When the interest rates, because they jumped up so high so quickly, right? They jumped and boom, 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 boom. They kept raising the rates. So people got scared. Even investors, like, oh, whoa, 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 right? So there was kind of a brakes on. Now everybody's realized interest rates are what they are, can't do anything about it. Market's still strong. So guess what's happening? People are back to buying, right? And until more inventory comes on the market, and this is kind of a catch-22 because interest rates are high. So people who were going to move, they're like, hey, I'm not going to move. I'm in a 3.2, 3.3% interest rate, and I'd love to buy a house, which is maybe a couple $100,000 more, but my payments are not only going to go up by that, I'm moving up in price, plus I'm going to double up on my interest payments. I'm just not going to do it. It doesn't make any sense, right? And that's the reason why there is a shortage of homes on the market, because general people who are there, they're like, hey, we have good locked-in rates. We're not going to get rid of these rates, right? And there's an inventory shortage because the population obviously keeps going up each year, and yet there's not as much building going on in the Chicago market or markets like the Midwest, where you just don't have that much land, so the cost of building is not worth it. In Florida, parts of Florida, where you have new construction going on, obviously things are a little bit different. But the question that you ask is a complex question, and this is something you're going to face in a market like today. But my suggestion would be is use the strategy I used, which is partner with people, use their proof of funds, but you're like, what, Andrew, I'm going to do double the work. Guess what, right? You got to do double the work. You got to do double the work, right? So, I mean, that's what I had to do, right? It sucks when I sell the property, right? This property was, but listen, I made $90,000 on this deal. I would have made zero, right? So I'm grateful to John for him partnering with me, because at that time I needed his partnership. This is 6, 7, 8 years ago. I needed that, right? So just something to think about. Last thing is, in your opinion, what is the forecast for fourth quarter in terms of the Chicagoland market? A lot of properties are hitting the MLS, but multiple offers. Therefore, it is tough to get a deal, right? Guys, listen, this happens every year. This year, it happened a bit late. This crazy market did not happen till February into March. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. You mark my words. Those are the hottest months to buy real estate, and they're the worst months to buy real estate. Why? Because every person and their brother, right? Every investor is out, and they're forcing the property prices up. So that is the time, if you're going to ever take a vacation in real estate, take summers off, right? Because that's when the real estate prices are through the roof in a market like where we are, right? You start getting into October, November, December, January. Last year, October, November, December, January, February, I loaded up. I loaded up on way more properties than I could even get rehabbed. But guess what? Looking at today's pricing, those prices look ridiculously good. Why? Because I loaded up at a time where other people were not buying. If you were to ask me, this is just my opinion, I don't believe the prices are going anywhere, even if there's an economic slowdown, right? Which we really haven't experienced, but they keep saying, oh my God, it's, oh my God, we're going to recession. Recession where, right? Show me recession. People, there's less jobs. There are more jobs than there have ever been, right? People can get employment all day long. Wages are higher than ever. Property prices are higher than ever. And see, what they call a recession is, right? If the GDP growth in 2 quarters goes down, they're like, oh, that's not a recession, guys. That's just called normal, right? Things go up, things settle down a little bit, things go up, things settle down. Who says it's going to be up all the time, right? This is a fantasy that has been created, and this BS that media has created this, that, oh my God, any ups and downs, right? That is supposed to be bad. That is not supposed to be bad. That is called a healthy market. You are supposed to have oversupply. You're supposed to have less supply. That is called the natural ebb and flow. And you make a lot of money when that ebb and flow happens if you know how to take advantage of that ebb and flow, right? I do not feel, at all whatsoever, period, that in the Chicagoland market, and I say that Chicagoland market is because it's different than Florida. And it is different than Florida in terms of that in Florida, you have pockets of Florida where you have lots and lots of land available, right? Charlotte County, where we are, there's a lot of land available. So in some pockets, the new construction price has come down a little bit. Why? Because there are a bunch of other builders building. Chicago, that is not the case because there's really no land. But if you go out to Peoria, you go to Springfield, you go to some other pockets of Illinois that are depressed, right? Those are depressed markets. There's jobs are not there. The economy is depressed. Just things are depressed. There, you may be able to get deals. But guess what? People don't want to be there. So the demand is not going to be as high, right? Yet you go up to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Madison, any of those markets, they're hotter than ever. So what I'm trying to say is this: in the Chicago market, you don't have a problem. Now, having said that, A markets in Chicago, B markets in Chicago, hotter than hot. But if you look at the South Side market, right, on a flip, on the back end, you're not going to get, I was just having a conversation with Ryan Smith. We were just laughing about this because there's a property that somebody was looking at from Mastery. And he said, man, on the back end, a lot of the realtors are not going to say this, but last year, for a property which is a house in basically in Southside, right, that you could get about $290 for. This year, for the same property, you're only going to get $250. Why? Because it's all FHA buyers in that area. They're going to ask. They're going to put down 3.5%. But if the interest rates went from 3.3 to 7 or to 6.5, they can't afford that. They would like to afford it. They'll make a full price offer on the property, but guess what's going to happen? When they go to the lender, right, their payments become so high, so they can't buy the property because in an FHA situation, people are buying a payment, they're not buying the house. House just happens to be incidental, right? As you move up in the price range, then people are buying a house because literally if my payment is, let's just say I buy a house, right? And if my payment is $7,000 or $10,000, does it make a difference? No, right? It's based on, do I want to pay a $10,000 note on a house I may buy, or $15,000, $20,000, depending on the scale of house you're buying, right? That can I buy something? Yes. Do I want to do it? That's a different thing. But in a lower price range or an FHA starter market price range, it's not that do they want to buy it? The answer is yes. Why? Because there's not a lot of good quality housing available. But the question is, can they qualify? That becomes the major question. I hope that helps. There's a lot of interesting questions today. Having said that, we will wrap up. And we will see you at the 3-day. Super thrilled. Friday is the day. Sharp. Show up there before 8:30 because it becomes a pandemonium at the event. Be a massive event. Again, AndrewHomesEvents.com. Thanks a bunch. Talk to you soon.